The early 2000s had some of the most desired tuner cars of all time. We saw cars like the Nissan 350Z, E46 BMW, and S2000, all of which are still very popular today. Almost every single car brand out there had multiple cars to choose from, except for one. Their name is Mazda, and they do things a little different around here. Hello everybody, my name is Mark Roden, and this is the deep dive on the Mazda RX-8. In the year 2001, Fast and Furious flew onto the big screen and showed the rest of the world what was so damn special about car culture. They showed the world why these Honda Civics were blasting up and down their roads at 3 a.m. and people loved it. Not long after that, one of the world's most popular racing games also took part in the tuner craze, Need for Speed, with the launch of their Underground game, which only further made people want these damn sports cars again, which was an absolute lifesaver because car brands were starting to no longer sell sports cars since everybody just wanted to buy a damn sedan or SUV. But thankfully, with these new pop culture icons becoming more and more popular, people wanted a taste of the tuner action and started buying sports cars again, which made these money-hungry car companies' eyes light up. They started pumping out sports cars fast as all hell in order to hopefully sell to the people who just got done watching Dominic Toretto say family for 2 hours straight.
Not family now.
I already lost my family once.
Family just got bigger. There's always room for family.
We're family.
I know you guys are family.
And one of those companies would be Mazda. After 9 whole years since they discontinued the RX-7, car enthusiasts were kind of giving up on them. They hadn't given us a sports car in that long. Like, what is there to even talk about? The Miata? Sure, it's cool, but it hasn't changed much since the launch in 1990, and people wanted something with a bit more power. And then, in 2004, Mazda would absolutely shock the world.
Zoom, zoom, zoom. Zoom, zoom, zoom.
The Mazda RX-8 would come rolling onto the scene because it needed new apex seals in 2004, and people were excited. This was going to be the first rotary-powered Mazda we had seen in a very long time, and it was carrying the RX nameplate too. It was a recipe for success from Mazda. Mazda's a company who literally built their legacy on rotary-powered sports cars. The car was initially only offered with a 1.3-liter, 2-rotor Wankel rotary engine, which managed to pump out 191 horsepower. This was the first sign of defeat for Mazda. 191 horsepower in 2004 was not a lot. The 350Z was making 287 and the IS300 was making 225. But at least this new Mazda was something different because of the rotary, and because of that, people wanted to give it a shot. So it sold actually pretty well the first year at 25,000 models, which is by no means great, but that's also not very bad at all for a sports car. But then disaster struck at Mazda. Rotary engines, well, they take a lot of time. They are much different and therefore require much more complex and tedious maintenance in order to keep them running over a normal engine. And since most of the people that were buying these cars were doing it because of a trend in pop culture, they barely knew how to maintain a normal engine, let alone a rotary. So sadly, reviews were pretty negative. People kept saying the famous word of unreliable, and those who actually knew something about cars would say that the car's too much maintenance, not realizing that they bought a sports car, not a daily driver. Of course it's going to be higher maintenance, but these massive misunderstandings would sadly be devastating. The car went from selling 25,000 models to 14,000 models the next year, and then all the way down to only 5,000 models in 2007. But Mazda was at least proud of this new sports car, and they continued to improve on it over and over again. The RX-8 was now the company's baby, and they wanted to just keep making it better and better, and they knew one of the massive downsides to this car was the power output. So they gave it a much better heart. Instead of only having 4 ports, they would make one with 6 ports, which would manage to bump the power up from 191 horsepower to 232 horsepower. This huge increase in power would put the car on pace with the other sports cars of the time, and on top of that, they were now offered with a 6-speed manual transmission. In 2008, they would give the car a much needed facelift and make it look much more aggressive in my opinion, while also shortening the final gear in the manual transmission in order to give it a slightly better 0 to 60 time. But Mazda was still not done. Remember how I said this car was their baby? Well, Mazda is nothing like Casey and Anthony. They actually love their baby and they wanted to see it grow, so they threw it into the wonderful world of Motorsports. Motorsports at the time was also kind of taking off due to the love of sports cars, and Mazda knew they just needed to show that damn 350Z who was boss. They entered the car into a handful of races with a modified engine making around 600 horsepower and a full tube frame chassis. It was a handling god, and with the added horsepower made it perform pretty damn well. In 2008 and 2010, it would go on to win the 24 Hours of Daytona for the GT class. Much better than you can do, Nissan. Give me your freaking lunch money, Nissan. Imagine you're trying to win a race and out of nowhere a 600 horsepower rotary engine comes roaring up behind you spitting flames like it's freaking Chief Keef. But sadly, none of these wins would really help in terms of sales, and I think Mazda knew that. I have a very funny feeling Mazda stopped producing rotary engines in the 90s because they knew the world was starting to not understand them. When they made the RX-8, I don't think they were expecting to sell huge numbers. They knew the time was coming for rotary engines, and soon enough there would be no more rotaries left. So they decided to make one more and go out with a bang, not caring about how reliable the car was or how well the critics liked it. And I think it only cements that theory when they came out with the RX-8 Spirit R at the end of its runtime in order to pay homage to the RX-7 Spirit R. And if that doesn't scream, it's been one hell of a run, rotary, then I don't know what does. The Spirit R was a completely modified version of the base model RX-8 that would greatly increase on many of the weak points on the car. They gave it a completely new brakes and bigger tires, reworked the whole suspension system, gave it much more aggressive aero and new headlights, and most importantly, they reworked the whole rotary engine in order to have it run at its peak power output. The result would be 238 horsepower and a top speed of 170 miles per hour. Nowadays, sure, buying an RX-8 may not be the best idea. They are very unreliable, and most likely you don't know how to take care of them. That's not an insult, by the way, it's the truth. I think people over time have adopted this sort of god complex where they think that since they know a little bit more than the average person, that they know everything, when they just don't. The Mazda RX-8 is an amazing sports car. Yes, it's incredibly unreliable, but Mazda knew that. Think of any of the legendary cars in the world, the Ferrari F40, the McLaren F1. Those aren't reliable cars either, but we love them for what they stand for. Amazing cars need an amazing owner to show their true potential. So go ahead and hate on the RX-8 for having bad apex seals, weird doors, and requiring a special mixture of fuel to run right. But me personally, I'm going to keep loving the RX-8 for being a raw driving experience, sounding incredible, and being the last rotary powered car that we've ever got. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video on what makes the Mazda RX-8 so great. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like these. Let me know what videos you want to see in the comment section down below. Check the links in the description for any of my other social medias or any of my other YouTube channels or any of that great mumbo jumbo. And thank you guys so much for watching. As you guys know, based on the title, this video is a re-upload. For those who don't know, we have decided to shift the upload schedule, I guess you could say, to before we were uploading 6 times a week, Monday through Saturday or Monday through Friday or Sunday through Friday, Jesus. But now we've changed it to that we're uploading only Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. However, the videos that I get out on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays are going to be higher quality videos. So on Mondays for right now, they're re-uploads of old What Makes It Greats until we get done with the re-uploads. There's only around 10 left, so we shouldn't be doing these for too much longer. But right now it's just re-uploads of the old What Makes It Greats. Wednesdays are top 25 cheap cars videos, and Fridays are new What Makes It Greats. As a matter of fact, this Friday's What Makes It Great is going to be the What Makes the Nissan Altima So Great, which is one that we never done before, one that we're new. The reason why that is just simply put, I like putting them out there. I'm going with a quality over quantity approach now on the Mark Roden channel, trying to get better videos out there for you that I'm actually proud to put out onto the internet rather than just doing top 10s all the time. And I like the good, bad, and uglies too. I've always liked the good, bad, and uglies, but I feel like the What Makes It Great are kind of just better good, bad, and uglies anyways, so dropping those. And then the 5 reasons why you should and 5 reasons why you should not style videos that we tried doing in the past. I thought it was going to be a good idea, but the views obviously show that it wasn't. And that makes sense. It's a very cheap, easy video to make, very like kind of just dumb. And so yeah, plain and simple, I understand. But that's the plan. And then once we're done with the re-uploads, because again, we only have like around 10 re-uploads left to do. I know we have the Forester, the LS400, the Prelude, Saab as a whole, like the entire brand of Saab, K cars, like, you know, Japanese K cars, the Scion TC. What else is there? Oh, the SC300 and SC400. I know that one is one of them. And then there's 3 more. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. But either way, those are the re-uploads. And once we're done with the re-uploads, the Mondays are going to be taken up with either vlogs or how to builds. The how to build series actually did a really good, and you guys always loved watching those videos. Those videos did really, really well, and they always got decent views and everything. So maybe on Mondays we'll do how to build a blank. Or, like I said, vlogs, whether it be what my buddies are doing whenever I go down to my shop. You guys remember them, Zach and Ben and all those guys, what they're doing, and just going down to the shop and hanging out with them and talking and just updating you guys on what they're doing. Or I might buy a project. Now, here's the thing. Keep in mind, I'm 26 years old. I got to start being responsible. So the next car I do buy is not going to be a project. The next car I buy is going to be a responsible car that's actually going to be reliable, low mileage, newer, with a modern interior, all that nice stuff that can actually get the job done. And then the next thing I want to buy after that is actually a house. However, with that being said, thanks to you guys and you guys alone, I am blessed enough to have the opportunity to buy a project and a nicer, newer car for some sort of daily or whatever it may be. And so I'm thinking about it. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I know you guys like whenever I build cars on the channel. The 350Z videos did really well. The Integra videos did really well. And I've been thinking about it. I want to build an IS300. I really do. I've always wanted one. I think they're really cool cars, and you guys love them. So I really do want to build an IS300 and try and actually go like drifting and learn how to drift and everything like that, and actually take it seriously and everything like that. So maybe that will be the next project. But again, I don't know, that's a bit of a pipe dream, so don't expect that to come like within the next week or so. I was just thinking about it and just wanted to put it out there, seeing what the audience, putting out the bait, seeing if the audience bites, as they say, you know what I'm saying, if you guys think it's a good idea or not. But anyways, that is pretty much the plan going forward. I hope you guys are okay with that. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from as a content creator and as an audience, obviously. And thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.